Psalm 147 promises that God heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. For Bishop Neville Smith, one of our experts from our Singles series, a broken heart was something he experienced firsthand. Although countless prayers were lifted up by his friends, family, and church members in Bermuda, his wife of 39 years died of cancer. Now a widower, this mighty man of God asked the question so many others have asked: can God truly heal the brokenhearted? And if so, how? Neville, I am looking through these pictures that you gave me.
Yes.
I know. And I cannot help but notice this one, right here. How old were you?
I was, I think, about 19 in this photograph. That means that Loretta would have been 17.
Ooh.
So 19 and 17. That's why she really shines against my face. She always did shine. We would have been married 40 years in 2009. So we were 39 years.
Yeah.
Cancer got into her body. She woke up on I think it was a Tuesday morning, and in such pain in her stomach. And she said, I've got to go to the hospital. To see my wife go through all of that, to see her body almost become disfigured with fluids in her face. If you didn't know her, you wouldn't recognize her. And to go in every day and see her like that cut my heart so deeply. It was the most difficult time of my life that last year and those last 3 months, from September 2008 until 5 days before Christmas. The most challenging time, and I'm asking God, I don't understand. Everyone home is praying, and I heard something in my spirit that I did not want to hear. I heard, she's coming home to me. I remember saying, that's not God, because we're praying. And those words echoed in my spirit and in my heart and in my soul and my emotions. And I remember going back to the apartment and saying, God, this can't happen. And then finally I had to say, in order for me to get the peace about it, I had to say, just what Jesus said, not my will, Father, thy will be done. That was the most difficult thing of my life, to release my wife.
I know that God's grace is and continues to be sufficient in your life, especially during the death of your wife. But what about afterwards, when you're sitting there in your house by yourself? You know, how did God help you navigate the heartbreak?
One of the most difficult things for me was my first night at home in the same bed without her. That was different. Looking over and realizing that that was the pillow, not Loretta. My wife wasn't simply my wife, she was my best friend. I said, Lord, how do I sustain myself? And he said, no, I will sustain you. And I said, what about the answers to my wife going? Isn't there an answer? I don't understand why. And you know what the Lord said to me? It was a breaking point in my whole life that got me through that thing to this very day. He said this to me: trust me. He said, if you will trust me and make trust the answer, then you will go through this fine. Trust becomes the bridge to the answer, because trust will be the bridge that will always carry me to the name that is above every name, the name Yeshua, Jesus, the Christ of God.
How do you trust?
It was an act of my will, my mind, and my emotions and my soul. I had to take all three of those and say, I give them all to you right now. And as soon as I did that, the peace of God settled in my spirit and in my mind, and believe it or not, even in my body, meaning that I could sleep better. God knew I needed that grace. I had to get back into things, the church, the family, and keep doing those things. And wow, it was absolutely amazing. And I remember going to bed night after night. I thank you for keeping me today. Did I still weep a little bit? Of course. But it was not that heaviness. The weeping was because I miss her so much. You know, it wasn't even so much weeping because her body had died. It was the missing her that I had to get past, and that's where God gave me grace. And to this day, I can say thank God for the grace.
So what would you say to someone who their loved one is gone and that heartache is still there.
Prayer, read the word, worship, cry. Prayer, read the word, worship, cry. Look at pictures, hug the pillow, prayer. I mean, all of that process.
Yeah.
But doing those things that I normally do. Get up in the morning, go and do what you normally do. Return to normal.
So you got to start living.
You've got to get up. If you don't get up,
Yeah.
that's the difficulty there. Emotions can keep you down.
Yeah.
I had to decide to get up, and you have to make a decision what you want to do with the rest of your life. And I decided before God, I'm going to live because in Him I live and move and have my being, so I'm going to make this a practical thing as well.
What is your hope for the widow?
Find your place again. Find your emotional place. Find your spiritual place again. Find your place in your community. Find your place in your church again. Make sure that's all in order. Find your place again in your family with your children. Make sure the relationships there are working well for you. Make sure your relationship with your friends, and make sure that's as best as you can working well in the church. And settle your spirit and everything, your mind, your emotions. Get all that settled first, even as a widow. Because if you do get married again, you want to make sure that you're getting married as a whole person. In other words, be happy again with life for you.